Is it true that Malaysia is progressing because of the legacy of civilization left by the British? In my opinion, this assumption is clearly inconsequential and completely wrong, because how can a colonized country progress because of the legacy of civilization from its colonial country? It is very unlikely that a colonial country would want to make its colonial country developed or deliberately abandon advanced civilization so that one day its colonial country would also develop after independence. That is a strange, unreasonable assumption, because where can a colonial country have projections into the future so that its colonial country will one day become independent and become developed countries? The fact that happened was that the colonial country only wanted to exploit the rich natural resources of its colonial country for the progress and prosperity of its colonial country, while the people of its colonial country were definitely left poor to suffer so that they did not have the strength to rebel to escape the shackles of colonialism. So it would be a big mistake to say that Malaysia's progress was thanks to the legacy of British civilization. It is true that the British left behind civilizations such as government buildings, schools or plantation and forestry industries, but this was all for the interests of the British colonialists, not for the interests of the people of Malaysia who were colonized. Let's try to review Malaysia's progress based on rationality and logic, but also morality. If there is an opinion stating that Malaysia is developed because of the legacy of British civilization, that opinion may seem rational, but it is not logical. Why? Because Malaysia is developed due to the legacy of British colonial civilization. It seems rational because the majority of former British colonies have become developed countries such as the United States, Canada, Australia, India, Singapore and so on. Rationally, this may at first glance appear to be true based on empirical evidence from developed countries that were former British colonies, but logically it turns out that the facts are not true when viewed from the historical facts that Malaysia has experienced, namely that the progress that Malaysia has achieved is thanks to learning from developed countries in Europe. And Europe then also learned from Japan in the 1980s when Tun Mahathir came to power as PM of Malaysia by deciding on a policy of looking to the east, namely learning from the country of Japan, which developed rapidly in a short period of time after being totally destroyed in World War II, against the United States and its allies. So, according to my conclusion, the opinion that Malaysia is developed because of the legacy of British civilization, which can be said to be rational, seems correct because it is based on the assumption that most of the former British colonies have become developed countries. Whereas logically, in fact, Malaysia is developed because it is struggling to become a developed country in its own way and become. I don't want to depend on England because Western countries are not suitable to be used as the main reference for role models for Malaysians who prefer Japan, which has the same personality as an Eastern country which is full of ethics and manners. This is important because Malaysia is also an Islamic country which also prioritizes morals. There, Malaysia learned that even though Japan succeeded in becoming a developed country, it still maintained Eastern cultural traditions, full of good manners, respect for elders and teachers. That's the information from the Dunia Fana news channel. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.